In this video, I'm going to show you how I use question banks in Schoology. So the way I set up a question bank is I actually go into my course. So I am going to open up a course that I'm going to add. I usually will delete this right away, so I usually don't make this public for the students to see, but I do need to make it in my course. So I'm going to add a test or quiz. And I'm going to say it's a chapter 1 practice test. And I'm going to click this green button to not publish it so the students don't see it because I'm just messing with it. It's not graded or anything. I'm going to make it ungraded. And I'm going to create this. So it's going to open up that test that I just created. I'm going to add my questions. I usually use question banks or questions from ExamView, and so I already have exported an ExamView file to use. So check out the export from ExamView or import from ExamView segment, and so you can see how to do that. But I'm going to import those questions, and I have to go find that file. It's a zip file that I've saved on my desktop, and chapter 1 practice test. I'll open that and import it. And so here is all of the questions. And so now I am going to add my questions to a bank. So it will, I'm going to select all the questions. You can either select a bank, and this will be created in your resources. So you can either create the bank first, or I can actually say I want to make a new question bank. I'm going to change just to chapter, name it chapter 1 practice. You can pick which collection you have it in. I'm going to put it in my home, and I'm not going to put it in any subfolder. You could put it in a subfolder, and then I'm going to add questions. So my questions has successfully been added. So I'm going to go to my resources, and I'm going to show you what my personal resources look like and where that question bank went. I had put it into my home collection, and so I didn't have it in a file. And so here is that bank. You can see it looks like a folder with a puzzle piece, like what a test would be. If you want to create the bank first, you'd add a resource and you would add a question bank. So question banks are always saved in your resources. So you can also go in here and look. Here are all the questions that I just added to my question bank. Once you have one added, you can also add any extra questions you want if you want to type in your own question. I have all my questions usually made in ExamView, and then I import them into Schoology, but you can make your own questions in Schoology itself. So I have my question bank ready. So now how do I use that? So I'm going to actually, let's see, I'm going to delete this because I don't really need this anymore, this test, so I usually will delete it right away. It's just easiest to import ExamView questions, if you're using ExamView questions, to do that in a course instead of in your resources. So I'm going to go back to my materials. Okay, so let's say I want to make my test now that is using those question banks. So I'm going to add my test or quiz into my course. So chapter 1. I'm going to say I'm going to use those practice test questions for my actual test. Again, I'm not going to publish it so the students don't see that I'm kind of messing with the course. You can change your category for grading if you want at this point, but I'm going to just create an ungraded one for right now. And when I click on add question, I'm going to choose from question bank. So from that question bank, I can select the specific questions that I want to have on the test, or I can actually ask for random questions to be chosen from that question bank. I like to do this a lot with practice tests sometimes, and then you can, every time they take the practice test, it will choose a new set of questions for them. So it's a good way for them to get some good practice. So when you I'll show you both. So if you click on individual questions, you're taken to your resources and you have to find your question bank. So mine is in the home, and I'm going to open up the Chapter 1 practice, and here's where I can choose which questions I want to have. So I'm going to choose these 3. You do have to set how many points each question is worth, so I'm going to have 1 point for each question and add those questions. So right away you can see it pulled just those 3 questions in. So let's say I want to add random questions. So I've deleted my questions that I just added just to show you how this would work. I'm going to import again from the question bank, click random questions, and this time I'm going to choose the box next to the question bank and select that question bank. And I'm going to tell it how many questions do I want to pull. So I'm going to have 4 out of the 8 questions on the test. Each question is going to be worth 1 point, and I'm going to add a question. So this will look a little differently, where it says it's just showing a random question set, and it gives me all of the questions that are possible here if I click the down arrow. But it shows that I have 4 questions out of the 8, 1 point each, for a total of 4 points. You can always go in and edit how many questions you want and how many points you want when you have a random set. So hopefully this helps you understand how to use a question bank in Schoology in your own course.